If you follow this channel for any number of time, you'll know that in almost every video, I say that term life insurance is the best option for the majority of Canadians, and permanent life insurance is not really a good option. And so if you've been following this channel for, again, any amount of time, you'll probably wonder, do I hate permanent life insurance? Like, am I an advocate against permanent life insurance? So in this video, I'm going to explain exactly what I love about permanent life insurance and also what I hate about permanent life insurance. What is up, guys? For those of you who do not know me, my name is Philip Sutter. I'm the founder and CEO of Affinity Life, where we've helped hundreds of Canadians find the right life insurance coverage at the right price, all from the comfort of their own home. So if that sounds interesting to you, I'll put the link in the description below and you can check it out. But without further ado, let's get into today's video. Okay, listen, here's the thing. I do not hate permanent life insurance. That's not going to be the basis of this video, is just me shitting on permanent life insurance for the, 10 or 20 minutes that I'm going to ramble on here. But I do need to explain some things here because there are some problems with it. And there's just some things that happen in the industry that I do not agree with and I oppose very strongly. And so maybe if I just share a little bit of my history about how I got started in the industry and some of the problems that I've seen in the industry, you'll start to understand why I don't think permanent life insurance is a great option for the majority of Canadians. So I started in the insurance industry with a company called Combined Insurance. And now Combined Insurance is like, you can't do wrong with them. And what I mean by that, right? Well, they only have a handful of products, and the products that they sell are like these like niche accident policies where, like, I don't know, you break an arm, you get, maybe a couple $100 or $1,000. If you have an accident and you go to the hospital, you get like a couple, $1,000 or something like that. So it's accident insurance. What's going to happen if you had an accident, you had some bills that you needed to pay? So you can't really do anything wrong with that. I mean, the cost for them was like $40 a month, $30 a month, something like that. Like, they were just really inexpensive. So it's not like you're doing any harm with that. So I started with them when I knew nothing, and I started working in the industry and learning the industry, and they didn't sell any permanent life insurance. They barely, sold any life insurance. They barely had term life insurance. And so starting with them, I think, was really good because as you're learning how insurance works and all the different types, and disability and accident and critical illness and term and permanent, all these other things, I couldn't really do wrong per se by any client because I didn't really have the mechanism, quote unquote. I didn't have the tools to do anything that bad because I'm kind of just like, we had these little policies that were like, most clients that were buying it, it was like $12 a month or something like that, or $14 a month. So you can't do that much harm to people financially when you're selling like $14 policies, like that's like a coffee or 2 coffees a month. So I stayed with Combined Insurance for about a year, maybe about a year and a half. And then I wanted to expand and I wanted to see, okay, what else is out there? And that's when I became an independent insurance broker. And an independent insurance broker is essentially someone who has access to now all the different carriers. So instead of working for just one specific company and having their products, now you can have access to all the different products from all the different companies across Canada or wherever you work. And so this was like the first time in my career where I was like, holy crap, there is so many products. There is so many things to learn. Like, not only do you have to understand now how all these different like products work, like how does permanent life insurance work? How does term life insurance work? But then you need to understand, like, well, what's the difference between Sun Life and RBC? What's the difference between Manulife and Equitable, right? How did their application process work? Where's the sweet spot for them? And so it's very much like drinking from a fire hose, trying to figure it out. And that's essentially, what I did as I started drinking from a fire hose and figuring out. And at first I did start to work in the family market, just doing like little term life insurance sales, and okay, you need disability. Okay, you need this, and that's fine. But what I ended up gravitating towards was more working with business owners. And that's where I've spent the bulk of my career as an insurance broker. And by the way, I've been in this industry for almost 10 years now, just to give you an idea, pardon me. And so what I found is that permanent life insurance for business owners was a really cool tax strategy. And that's where I started to really steer the direction of my marketing and the conversations that I had. And it was like, hey, listen, if you own a business and you have retained earnings, you have extra cash, and you've already done all these things, this could be a really good option for you. And so that was my first really introduction to not just using life insurance for the purpose of, protecting your family, but now using it more as a wealth building tool, as well as possibly a tax strategy. And this was totally different from how I had previously worked in insurance. Before that, I had worked in insurance just as, hey, what happens if you pass away, or what happens if you had an accident? What happens if something happens and you're financially impacted, or the loved ones that you have are financially impacted? That was always the direction that I took it. But now I started to steer into this other path where it was like, well, it's not just insurance now, it's wealth building and it's tax strategies and, building extra retirement income, passing more on to the next generation. And that was incredibly interesting to work in. However, as I started to work in this market, and I still would work with other individuals as well, I would get a whole bunch of leads from different insurance companies. I would talk to different people. I would, get them from networking events or wherever. And I started to see a pattern emerge with permanent life insurance and with specific companies that sell these type of strategies. Is on the one hand, I was looking for business owners that were doing roughly $1 million in revenue or more, and they were already taking a salary of 100 or 150 or 200,000 out of their corporation. They already had significant RRSPs, they had TFSAs, they had other investments, they had their business. And what I was recommending was this supplemental piece, this additional, maybe use as a buffer asset, maybe use it to build your wealth, maybe take a loan against it and you can write off the interest if you put that back into some type of investment. And this was just an addition to what they already had, but they already had so many other things going. But I would go into these other meetings, and this is where I started to become quite callous towards permanent life insurance. Is I would go into these meetings, and I remember one meeting in particular, and I think after this meeting it really changed me as an advisor. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like, pardon my language, but I went to this meeting. It was a lead from this insurance company that was, they were handing out leads, and he basically said, I have a question about my life insurance policy. I would like an advisor to come to my house. The advisor that I bought it from is gone, and I just want to talk to someone about how this works. And so the day that it actually happened, this was like still early on in my career, and I was still like trying to figure things out, and I didn't know everything about insurance. Not that I know everything now, but I know a good enough amount to be able to talk about it. And so I went over to this guy's house. I'm a little bit nervous because you're always like going into a different environment, somebody else's house, somebody else's space, and you don't know what's going to happen. And so I drove there, and I went into his house, and we sat down, and he puts this policy in front of me, and he says, I don't understand what's happening. He's like, I bought this policy from this advisor 25 years ago, and they said that I would put $200 a month away into this policy, and that I would get these retirement benefits, and I would be able to pull an income from this policy, and I would be able to stop paying for this policy. However, I'm receiving these letters from the insurance company, and they're saying that they want more money. They're saying that the policy is going to collapse. They're saying like all these things, and I haven't read them in a while because I was just paying the $200. And so I started to open these policy statements up and look at them, and I'm like, what the hell does this mean? And I would like you to explain them to me. And so at the time, I still wasn't 100% familiar with exactly how everything worked, but now I do understand what he had and what his policy was. So essentially, what he was sold was a universal life policy. And by the way, I am agnostic of product, okay? I believe that every single product for insurance has a place at a certain time. Anyone that says this is the way no matter what is like, they're jaded, they're biased, they're lying to you, because that's false. There's always a time and place for something. In Star Wars, only the Sith deal in absolutes, okay? So if any advisor, anything tells you like everything is crap and this is the only way to go, they're lying to you, or they don't know what they're talking about. I'm sorry. They don't know what they're talking about, because I will talk very negatively against universal life or permanent life insurance in general. However, I unequivocally know that there is a place for universal life insurance. So when I tell you what he had and that he had universal life insurance, don't take this as a sign that, Philip thinks that universal life insurance sucks. I don't. There's definitely a proper place for it. It is a very good product if it's used correctly. The problem is the percentage of time that is used correctly is very, very small. And the percentage of time that it's used incorrectly and it blows up and people waste money is very large, unfortunately. So what this client had was something known as a universal life policy, and he was putting $200 a month into this policy for like 30 years. And the problem was two things. Number one, his returns that he were getting was not what the original advisor illustrated for him. So when you get an illustration from any advisor, they'll show you, hey, look at what this is going to do. However, with universal life insurance, you can put in any number you want. You can say that this is going to do 8% every single year until you turn 65. You can say it's going to do 10%. You can say it's going to do 2%. So whatever number the advisor originally picked as a return obviously was not what this client got. And so their returns were dismal. That's the first thing. The second thing, they were on something known as YRT, which stands for yearly renewable term, meaning that the cost of his insurance was progressively going up and up and up and up as he got older. And eventually the $200 that he was paying every month wasn't enough to cover not only anything into the investment, but the cost of insurance as well. And so that started to get eaten up. And then what happened is they started to automatically, because this is how it's written in the contract, they started to automatically take money out of his investment to help pay for the cost of insurance because it kept going up and up and up. And I remember finally sitting down with him and explaining to him, okay, this is what happened. Your returns were not what they were projected, for one. And for two, the cost of insurance now is so high, it's going to cost you like $22,000 this year for this insurance. Next year, it's going to be like $37,000. Not only are you not making enough, but now that $200 is not nearly enough. You need to dump like hundreds of thousands of dollars into this policy to get it back up to the point. And now you're simply too old at this point to make it viable. And I mean, this individual was in his 60s and he was like, so let me get this straight. For the last 30 years, I spent $2,500 a month for nothing. And I'm sitting there as like a relatively new advisor. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know how to sugarcoat it or put it any other way. Yes, unfortunately, that is exactly what happened. And the dude broke down in tears and he's just like I didn't know what to say. Like I'm sitting there, I'm like, I don't know what to say to him. And it was at that moment that I really realized that advisors getting into the industry that are just following the advice of, you know, their upline or their manager or the company mandate or whatever it is, and they have no idea how these products work, and they're licensed to sell products that can very negatively impact a client's financial well-being throughout their life. This guy paid $2,500 a year for 30 years and it's gone like that. So here's the thing. This isn't the only story that I have. I have many other stories exactly like this where I met other people who couldn't afford it and they had to cancel and they got nothing back, or it wasn't what it was projected, or just a million different things where they ended up having to cancel it, or it ended up collapsing, or something went wrong. And so I'm just very jaded against people and advisors that are selling these strategies and permanent life insurance to low to middle income earners in Canada. Like 70% of the population in Canada make less than $80,000 a year. Think about that for a second. 70%. And I would never recommend permanent life insurance as an investment, quote unquote, ever for anyone doing under 80,000. And 70% of the population of Canada are under 80,000. With all that being said, keep in mind, this is coming from someone. I've been in the industry for almost 10 years. I work with multi-million-dollar corporations. I have an accredited curriculum that I built for advisors to teach them insurance, to teach them these things so we can better educate the industry and make less of these problems. So this isn't coming from someone who hates permanent life insurance. I have clients that are paying $200,000 a year for their permanent life insurance, $200,000 a year. So like, obviously, I don't hate it. That's not what I'm trying to say. But what I am trying to say is for a large portion, of the population, 70% of Canada makes less than $80,000 a year. Like that's a large percentage. So when I say in my videos that 9 times out of 10, term life insurance is probably the best option, and permanent life insurance, maybe just stay away from it until your income is a little bit higher, or you have a need for permanent life insurance above and beyond this quote unquote, use it during retirement. So, and I made another lengthy video detailing apples to apples between just an RRSP versus invest in life insurance. If you're interested in that video, just drop a comment below and I'll send it to you. But anyways, this is all I'm saying, okay? It's frustrating. You guys can see it's frustrating. So this is what I would love to have. I would love it if in the industry, you could only sell term life insurance when you came into the industry, and you had to get a special license to sell permanent life insurance, because the licensing requirements to come into the industry and have the capability to sell any of these products, I think is a negative thing for the industry, because you'll get these companies that push these products because the premiums can be much higher because you can justify this quote unquote investment component and you can make more commission on it. I think is a negative for the industry. I think you should get a special license to be able to purchase this type of product. So if you are looking at this type of product, ask a lot of questions. Ask them how long they've been in the industry. If they've been in the industry for like a year or 2 years, find another advisor that's been in the industry for like 10 plus years, even more than me, 10 plus years. Ask them what their accreditation conditions are, how well do they understand the product? Ask a lot of questions, because again, 9 times out of 10, I don't think permanent life insurance is the best option, but there are circumstances where it is the best option. I hope that you guys enjoyed this little video rant that I gave you guys today. If you guys have any questions, drop them in the comments below. And if you guys are enjoying this content, all I ask is that you give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you guys in the next one.